All right, guys. I think we're live now. Welcome to the show. Uh, yep, we're live. Okay, welcome to the show, everybody. In fact, I got Sean on the show right now. I'm sorry about that. I had some technical problems. Had to address right away, and now we're good to go. All right, so let's talk about Teddy Bridgewater, 3-0. I was at the game Sunday. It was just as exciting in person as it was to watch the game on TV, I'm sure. The crowd was very supportive of Teddy, so that was good news. But Sean, what were your impressions of the game?
I thought, once again, a week ago we said that Teddy has made steady progress through now 3 games, or at that point was 2 games. Has made steady progress. He's improved on a few things, but the only way that they were going to get the win against Tampa was to continue to improve, continue to show that progress. And he did in spades, man. He blew it up Sunday. I was very impressed. And what was maybe even more, what stood out even more was the way that his team stood up and rallied behind him, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was very happy to see him do the things he needed to do to win this game. He threw the ball deep. He threw the ball deep often. He took advantage of a Buck secondary, which is not very good at all. And the Bucks are good against the run, especially in the middle, but they're soft on the edges. And I thought their cornerbacks and safeties were terrible. And if there was going to be a game where Teddy Bridgewater was going to throw for 300 yards, this was the game he was going to do it. And in the dome, in front of a friendly crowd that chanted Teddy after every touchdown, it was a good performance for him. But like Bill Parcells said, and reading some of these comments right now, put away the anointing oil. Um, I'm seeing insanity coming out right now with comments like, well, if Teddy goes 6-0 in these starts, do you bring back Drew if he's getting better each time and having 300-yard games and throwing 6 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns? I'm sorry. Do you keep Drew on the bench? And my answer to
Step
all those,
away from the crack.
yeah, my answer to all those questions in an elite level. We are very lucky we have a backup. And like they said on all the talking head shows, this is why the Saints paid Bridgewater that kind of money. Not because he's the future, not because he could be the future, but because he is an experienced guy who will not wreck the offense. And that's what you needed.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I let's just let's just say, okay, let's just say we don't make the trade for Teddy Bridgewater. Our backup instead is what was that guy they had here, number 12?
Yeah,
Um,
the guy from
Savage,
Houston,
Tom
Savage.
Savage. Okay, let's say Tom Savage is starting these games. Do
There has
we?
been a lot of alcohol consumed
Yeah,
and quite a bit of profanity used.
right. Are you going to win in Seattle with Tom Savage? Probably not.
No,
You're not going to win at home against Dallas with Tom Savage.
no.
But you might beat Tampa Bay. I mean, the coaching is good enough, and that's the other thing you have to keep in mind. The coaching that Sean Payton is doing right now. He's putting Teddy Bridgewater in positions to be successful. He probably puts. I mean, Luke McCown looked pretty good against Carolina back in what was it, 2014?
Yeah,
So,
played an absolutely flawless game.
yeah,
He had, and even I've heard people refer to that game and say Luke had one bad pass that entire game, and that was the one that Norman picked off in the end zone. But
yeah,
if you go back and you look at that, Josh Norman made a hell of a play on that. I won't
absolutely.
even. The only fault that I find with that play is that you were trying to throw a jump ball to Brandon Cooks and not Brandon Coles.
Or Marcus Colston, right? Yeah, exactly. You're throwing it to your speed guy who's also your shortest receiver. But the point is, you would have the coaching because I mean, just look at how much Taysom Hill has progressed. You would have enough of the coaching that probably you win 2 or 3 games of the 6 game stretch with a Tom Savage. But Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than Tom Savage, so he is doing what he's supposed to do. Um, Calvin's exactly right. It's the 31st ranked pass defense. It was 31st ranked for that reason.
Yes.
A lot of people are going to light that defense up. It's not. It's not that good of a pass defense. They've got a good. They had an incredible game where things fell just right against the Rams, getting 3 turnovers. The offensive line for the Rams looking like crap. That, and of course the Bucs exploiting the Rams secondary. But on the whole, you're dealing with Tampa Bay, okay, and Tampa Bay's defense. This is not a championship defense. We didn't have to play the Super Bowl. We didn't have to play somebody who was going to do things to take Teddy's stuff away, take Michael Thomas out of the game, take Alvin Kamara out of the game, and make him beat you with an Austin Carr, a Ted Ginn, a Josh Hill. He's not making you do that. The Tampa's not going to do that to you. You do that to Drew Brees. Drew Brees probably finds a way to beat you with those guys.
And I think something else worth mentioning. I was really hard on Lat for rising to the occasion only when it was prime time nationwide TV audience. It's it's probably a lot easier to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when you hold Mike Evans to 0 catches. And Lat locked him down, and that was amazing to watch.
And the offensive line didn't make all the penalties they've been making recently.
Teddy has progressed to the point where he was almost automatic back there. I mean, there was just a couple of maybe 4 or 5 plays the entire game where he was indecisive and wound up tucking it and running rather than standing there patting the ball the way that he did in Los Angeles and Seattle.
Well, you look at that. You look at the pass to Ted Ginn Jr. I mean, Ted Ginn, no one touches him. No one picks him up. It's like a 7-on-7 drill. He just runs right to the corner, right to the end zone. And I mean, the pass was there. You have to give credit to the offensive line. They all played very well, controlling, shutting down. Basically, Shaq Barrett had 8 sacks going into this game, and he
led the league.
And he left the game with just 8 sacks.
Yeah,
So all those things worked out to be in the favor of the Saints.
Well, these things. What you were discussing earlier with all the fans' response to Bridgewater, stuff like quarterback controversies, they're not driven by the teams or the players or stuff like. They're driven by an unsatisfied fan base, a click happy media coverage. That's what creates these controversies more oftentimes than not. So are we looking at a brewing quarterback controversy in New Orleans?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I mean, I think some people...
But people are gullible.
Well, it's always... I hate to quote Bobby Hebert, but he says it all the time. It is a what have you done for me lately, but people really have short-term memories. There is the satisfaction, I think, for some people to think that, okay, we've got our quarterback of the future, so we can be a dynasty. We can just keep going. We can just, keep winning, and we can just keep building. And we don't have to worry about drafting a quarterback. We got one for next to nothing. Okay, and they want to live that kind of life, and they want almost not to run Breeze out of town, but they want that security. The future is now. That we don't have to worry about when is Breeze going to retire and what are we going to do then. We're just going to keep rolling like nothing. Nothing's changed. And now
Well, for
Bridgewater's in. We're going to keep
several
winning.
years now, the abiding wisdom, if you will, has been Drew can't play forever. And
Yes.
just as soon as Drew leaves, it's going to be basically blow it up and start over, which means probably a new coaching staff, which means probably a lot of losses. That's just kind of the way that things work out on an NFL timeline. And you don't want that to happen to your team. So any shred of anything that gives you hope that it won't work that way is something easy to believe in. But don't believe the hype. Like Alan pointed out a while ago, hey, Teddy played an incredible game. He went over 300. He 4 touchdowns. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. We're not talking about the 85 Bears. uh, and Tampa had played well up to our game. I think we exposed some things on them that others hadn't come across, because I don't think Evans has been held in check like that to this point in this season anyway. And you got to remember, you got to go back a few years to that play in the dome between Lat and Evans.
Yeah.
That's a rivalry. That's how those things get started. And I think all the motivation was there for Lat. But we said from the beginning, okay, coming in at the drop of a hat, the way that he did in Los Angeles was tough. That's a lot to ask of anyone that's a backup quarterback. Yeah. Okay, you had a week to prepare for Seattle. You didn't look great, but you got the W. You come home against Dallas. You don't even score a touchdown. Your defense saves your bacon. Okay, you looked a little better that game than you did in Seattle. Okay, you came out and you looked pretty tight against Tampa. We've said all along that if we can get over these few hills that's at the beginning of this stretch, it's going to get a little more comfortable as we go. And Teddy is going to be able to have a bit more of a comfort level against those teams at the bottom of this 6-week run. And a few years ago, we had to reel off some victories, and you look on the schedule, and we had to go to Lambeau and play Green Bay. And the game before us, Aaron Rodgers goes out with a broken collarbone. Mm-hmm. And some things like that are look to be aligning for us now, because we got to play a really, really tough Chicago team without their starter. Yeah. We get to see the old familiar face of Chase Daniel once again. And I watched parts of that game Sunday off and on with Chicago. And to be such a talented defense, that entire team looked utterly lost on that field Sunday.
Well, and that kind of takes me to our next topic. Speaking of defenses, is this the best defense the Saints have ever put together under Sean Payton?
Ooh, that's really hard to. It's hard to make that call this early in the season.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
Because if you look at the body of work that they put together thus far, you've really legitimately only had two contenders, I'll say, that you've went up against, and that would be the Rams and the Cowboys.
You can kind of throw Seattle in the mix. I think the Rams game, I'm gonna almost take a mulligan on the Rams game in general, and here's why. I think Drew going out kind of threw off the game plan, but secondly, I think the defense and the rest of the team kept looking like, is he coming back in? Is he going to play? What's going to happen? And I just felt like after Drew was gone, the whole team was kind of out of sorts. And that's why I thought the defense played well in the first half, but because the offense kept shooting themselves in the foot and just could never get in sync, I felt like the defense wore down. So it was almost like, okay, I'm not sure. And plus, it's only the second game of the season. I'm not sure what kind of team we are yet. But I think after they got the news, okay, Drew's going to be out 6 weeks, maybe longer. I think the defense kind of got together and said, you know what? And I've been watching America's game, and I watched a thing on the 76 Pittsburgh Steelers, who kind of went through the same kind of thing. They were defending Super Bowl champions. Bradshaw gets hurt. Rocky Bleier gets hurt. Franco Harris gets hurt. The offense is not scoring very much. So the Steelers defense said, you know what? They're not going to be able to carry us. We're going to have to win games. And they went on a tear where I think they shut out 10 people that season. It was a 14-game season back then. But they either scored the points or they shut the other team down and shut them out. And it was one of the greatest seasons in NFL history until the 2000 Ravens, which I think came pretty close. I think they shut out 8 people that year. But anyway, the point is, though, I think the defense decided we're going to have to make games so we don't have to rely on our offense to win the game. And I think you saw that in Seattle. You saw that in Dallas. And the offense then suddenly came to life against Tampa. But at the same time, the defense didn't back off and say, well, you know what? The offense is coming all right. We're okay. We don't have to play as hard. No, we got 6 sacks on them. We shut down Mike Evans. They kept that level up. So, yeah, it's not.
I think if you go back towards the middle to the end of last year, there were a couple of games there where the offense was playing very, very flat and the defense had to come in there and save it.
Yeah.
So that isn't anything really new. And if I'm not mistaken, with very few exceptions, we're looking at basically the same lineup as what we had last season, right?
Right. Well, yes and no. I mean, you've got one of the good signings we got was Malcolm Brown, who you got from the Patriots. He's an upgrade over Davison, who we had Tyler Davison, who we did have as a starter. You also are seeing a more mature David Onyemata. You're seeing some help from Mario Edwards Jr. as a rotational player. You're seeing the further development of Marcus Davenport now. So it's not all on Cam Jordan anymore.
I think one of the most beautiful things that I've seen, and I hate to use that word in reference to our defense, but that one series, I want to say late third quarter, early fourth quarter, where they just sacked him and sacked him and sacked him.
Yeah.
Play after play after play. And, while they get the statistics for that, you also have to take into consideration that Jameis is pretty good about finding those downfield receivers when it turns into a jailbreak. Yeah. So the secondary gets credit for that as well. And this is a secondary that, in my opinion, has not played well up to this point this year.
Well, you've seen now in 2 games in a row, you're seeing Lattimore play to the level he's capable of. And because you're seeing much more pressure just from the front 4, And keep in mind, too, this is the other thing, and I think this is probably the best defensive line since the 2000 Saints. Uh, you're seeing an 8-man rotation, really, in that defensive line. Um, you know, Shy Tuttle is even making plays as a run stopper. He pushed Taylor Stallworth to the practice squad. But, Carl Ganderson, the free agent, the undrafted free agent, he was in jail for all of camp. He's on probation. He came out and had a sack. So you're just seeing a lot of. You could actually take Cam Jordan out for a breather now, and you're seeing late in the games fresh pass rushers coming in and getting pressure on the quarterback. That is huge because, and you're not having to blitz because Demario Davis, yes, he can sack the quarterback when he comes in on some blitzes. He is creating incredible havoc, but you're not having to sacrifice coverage to draw pressure on the quarterback. You're seeing
that was one thing that stood out to me.
You're seeing with the
big
front
time
four.
Sunday was how well Demario Davis was playing in the pass defense. Not necessarily rushing the passer, but in coverage.
Right. In coverage, I mean, what was that play? I want to say it was O.J. Howard. Demario Davis is step for step and batted the ball away. He was in position almost to pick it off, but he was more interested in batting the ball away. But he was on coverage step for step with O.J. Howard. So, and you got to give props to A.J. Klein. I mean, I know a lot of people, he's like the modern day Scott Shanley. He's the linebacker that everyone's like, yeah, we could do better than him. But he is making plays in the run defense and to an extent in pass defense, picking up the running back coming out of the backfield.
And I saw a close up of him during that game Sunday. He is swole up.
Yep.
He is huge.
Yes, he is. But more to my point though is, you lose Anzalone, but you can now go to a 2 linebacker set with either Gardner Johnson, Chauncey Gardner Johnson out there as the big safety, or PJ Williams in there, kind of playing that safety hybrid cornerback role, and you're not exposing those guys to single coverage because the safeties don't have to play the run. Now PJ Williams can not worry about somebody getting behind him because he's got safety help. So, Calvin, I've been watching for Kiko. I don't see him in. I didn't see him much Sunday. I saw
him make a couple of plays.
I saw mainly 2 linebackers with a big nickel. Sometimes he went to 3 corners and 3 safeties where they were bracketing all the tight ends because they would send both Brait and Howard out. And those guys would bracket the tight ends and let Apple and Lattimore play man-to-man coverage. And with that front 4 being able to get the pressure they can get, they take away his check down plays, and they also take away any of the deep shots. He doesn't have the time to do the deep shots. So it was really an effective defense all the way around.
It really was. I was very impressed with the way. Now the Dallas game, that was pure defense because we couldn't get anything going on offense at all until it came in spurts basically. You'd have a little outburst here and a little outburst there, but consistency wise, no, there was nothing like that against Dallas because they have an incredible defense. Now against Tampa, this defense dominated them from the beginning.
And Tampa was funny. That game plan was almost like, we're not going to let Winston get in a position where he was going to have to throw the ball. We were going to run it as much as we could, and we were going to try and do short passes as much as we could so we would stay in third and short. And they did that more in the second half on the drive that got them 17. They went for it on fourth down twice, but they really tried to protect Winston as best they could because as soon as the Saints got up by 14, it's late in the fourth quarter. That's when the pass rush started getting to him. That's when all the sacks came in. 3 sacks in that one drive alone. But the key to that game was the defense keeping the scoring down. The most that the Saints offense had to come back from was 4 points. And the offense moving the ball, getting big plays, and scoring, taking Tampa and making them do what they weren't comfortable doing. And that was huge. That was huge.
But I'm still a little leery of our run defense because we'll shut them down, and then we'll get gashed for 30-yard gains.
Yeah.
But I will say this: at least they're limiting the damage to between the 20s.
Yep.
Our red zone defense really looked impressive Sunday.
Yeah, because I think they're getting most of those big runs when they're really expecting a pass. And they've got linebackers kicking out to go in pass coverage. And
I was really impressed with our third down efficiency on defense.
They were an over in the first half.
Until almost the end of the third quarter, I think.
Yeah, they ended up going 3 of 11 on third down.
And those 3 came at the end of the game when we were basically playing prevent anyway.
Yeah, that end of the game kind of pissed me off because I still don't understand why we just didn't kick the field goal and just kick off and let them. I mean, you're up by 17. You gave up garbage yardage and garbage touchdown because they had mostly backups at that point in the game.
Yeah. I never understood that going forward on fourth down either.
I almost think that Peyton's attitude was, I'm not going to run up the score on these guys, so I'm just going to, if we get the first down, and we'll just take a knee after that. But I don't think they really expected Tampa to try and score, and I was disappointed in that because I was, the whole time they're driving, like, what are you doing? You're just going to get somebody hurt. Just run the clock out. You're not going to win the game. This is like fantasy points that you're getting here. It's just, I didn't like it at all. It made the game look closer than it really was.
I played Michael Thomas on my fantasy team this year.
You had a good day Sunday then.
I lost by 51 points.
Well, who else did you have? Or who did he have?
Well, he had Deshaun Watson and Will Fuller.
Oh, well. At this point,
I got beat by the 53 points that Will Fuller put up.
I was going to say, at this point, anybody playing Atlanta right now, go ahead and start them on your fantasy teams. Because that defense
I lost
is trash.
a bit because I just knew that they were going to be looking for a coach Sunday night, and Jay Gruden got it before he did.
I think they're going to give him 2 more weeks. I think they're afraid because the guy, and maybe he has approached him. I mean, first off, he got the kiss of death. He got the I have full confidence in my coach speech from the ownership. And,
that's the end.
Yeah. So, his ass is on the line right now. And they play, who the hell does Atlanta play this week? I don't even know.
Let me see.
I'm looking right now. By the way, I'm enjoying reading Twitter, Atlanta Falcons Twitter.
Carolina plays Tampa next week. Let's see. Atlanta plays Arizona.
Okay, so Atlanta will probably win this one because Kyler Murray apparently doesn't get interested in playing football until the third quarter. So,
that was my quarterback this week.
Kyler Murray?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't get interested. It's almost like he doesn't get interested in the fourth quarter to play a football game. So
Well, starting him was better than starting Baker Mayfield.
yeah, Cleveland needs to stop reading their press clippings because they think
They
they're
should have
better.
done that in May.
I know they think
This
they're
is,
better than they really
for
are.
all their talent, that looks to be once again the most dysfunctional team in the league.
Well,
You cannot have a quarterback as talented as Baker Mayfield is, and a wide receiver core that includes Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr., and just get blown up by San Francisco.
you know why? Here's the biggest thing, and I just watched the first half of that game. I turned it off at halftime, but they kept trying to blow out the 49ers with one or two plays instead of being patient. Run the football, do the things, just move the chains. Don't go for the big play every time. They want the big, like I'm playing Madden football plays where we run all go routes and I just get to watch Odell Beckham just burn past a corner. That's not how you win football games. You've got to be patient, play the field position game. Your defense has to be disciplined, stay in its lanes. Some of the stuff they were giving up to the 49ers just unbelievable. Yeah,
Well,
and
once again, you've assembled a fantasy football team, and
mhm,
there's absolutely no chemistry there. Your quarterback has to have a rapport with your wide receivers. Your offensive line has to work towards enabling the quarterback and the receivers to do what they do.
yeah,
You've got one of the most talented young running backs in the league in Chubb.
mhm,
Why do you not get him involved?
right.
You're losing games that you should be blowing people out.
Well, but you don't blow them out with with the first few plays from last week either. You just be patient, throw the short stuff, use Odell as a decoy, even get the whole defense watching Odell and throw to other people. And then when they start jumping those other things, then Odell comes open. Set things up. Do the
Yeah,
things it takes just to move the chains, control the time of possession, and just make little plays. Be patient. They're not patient. They're not
no.
disciplined.
And the next step in this parade, if the past has taught us anything, is we're getting dangerously close to the point where Odell gets into a fight on the sidelines
Oh,
with
that's going to
kicking
happen.
net,
Yeah.
and then you become the punchline of every late night comedian's
Yeah.
jokes, and then everything in the press turns into a distraction,
Right.
and that's not going to help your team at all.
And Baker Mayfield, he's throwing way too many interceptions because everybody knows where he's going with the ball. And he's just
Yeah,
flinging it all over the place with no discipline whatsoever.
and
Um,
I don't put the crux of that. I don't put on Baker or on Odell. Your coach has to carry some of the weight of that,
sure.
because you have to send plays in to accomplish everything that Alan just alluded to. Just set these things up.
Mhm.
Your stars, go do it.
Well,
That
you know,
that's it. That's an asinine game
well, you
plan.
need you needed a strong head coach who can rein in Mayfield. If you look at Mayfield and Brett Favre have a lot in common. If you look at the early years with Green Bay, with when Brett Favre was there, and oh shoot, I just forgot his name. The head coach, the big walrus-looking dude from San Francisco, coached also Seattle. He did. He's like a
Holmgren.
walrus. Mike Holmgren. When Mike Holmgren was there, if you look at the sound clips at the beginning, at one point he tells Brett, no more rocket ball, do what you're supposed to do, that kind of thing. And then when he starts doing the other stuff, you say things like, he was saying things like, get him out of there. No, 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 no. We'll work with him, that kind of thing. But he had to break Favre of all those bad habits.
I
And
can
that's what
remember
you,
one game they had. They had him mic'd up, and Favre drops back to pass, and Holmgren says, "What the hell is he doing?"
Yeah.
And Brett made this incredible play where he just basically sidearmed it about 45 yards into the end zone to Antonio Freeman. And the camera shoots back to Holmgren. He says, "Well, okay then."
Well, that was the old Joker Roger Staubach too. You see Tom Landry go, "No, Roger, no, Roger," then go, Roger, go, Roger. That kind of thing because he
Yeah.
didn't like Staubach running. So that's what you need to have, that kind of relationship with your quarterback. You have to have a strong coach who can dominate the quarterback and get him to listen and do what he's supposed to do. And right now, you're seeing an undisciplined team that's playing street ball. They're really trying to play street ball out there instead of organized football, and they're getting beat because they make too many mistakes like that. You just can't allow that. You're
You
not going to
know,
win, no matter how much talent you have. You aren't going to win like that. And that's
in
what you're
this
seeing the
league,
Saints do
you
at
can't win
Bridgewater.
on talent because
Yeah,
every team has talent.
right.
You're, I've made the point innumerable times on here.
Well,
Every position has one of the best 32 people
mhm,
in the world at what they do. You can't win on talent alone.
right.
Uh, and Chad makes a good point in the live chat. The Browns have always been a running football team. You go back to the drive. Who was it? Ernest Biner.
Ernest Weiner, yeah. The fumble.
Um, and Kosar did what he had to do, but he wasn't one of those guys you're just going to flip the ball to him and say, "Go win it for us." He threw, but in the context of a running offense.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
and
the defense was always the strongest point of their team.
yeah. Those Browns teams had great defenses. You had Michael Dean Perry, and then go back even further to the Sam Rutigliano days, the Cardiac Kids with Brian Sipe at quarterback. They were
Mm-hmm.
still, even though they had receivers like Reggie Rutland, you had the guy who ended up
Uh,
being the general manager, Ozzie Newsome.
Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah, you had. They were a defensive team, but the offense made plays. Brian Sipe was not going to destroy you with his arm. Brian
No.
Sipe was going to beat you through discipline and last second plays, and that's why they were the Cardiac Kids. Then, of
Yeah.
course, you go back even earlier to the 60s, and Leroy Kelly and Jim Brown. And, you had the quarterbacks you had back then were, Dr. Oh shoot, the mathematician. God, I'm drawing a blank on all these people. Number 13, Frank Ryan, Dr. Frank Ryan, and you had it was an offense built on a running game with a quarterback who could do just enough things that will win football games, but it was defense and a running game because of the weather in Cleveland.
And
The
I'll say this, Chad, to close it out on this point. Uh, yeah, I agree with you. I believe that Mayfield was the answer, and I'm not going to go so far as to say that he cannot be the answer, but he's going to have a coach that's going to put him in a position to succeed. They
Yep.
can't. Mayfield does not have the experience at this level against this level of competition for you to just trot him out there and say, "Go do it."
You got to realize that Mayfield is a lot like Terry Bradshaw was in the beginning, the first 3 years of Terry Bradshaw. Even the Super Bowl year, 75,
They benched him.
74. Yeah, they benched him. You had Jefferson Street, Joe Gilliam start, okay, until he got crazy with the passes and got beat up, and they benched him, put Bradshaw in, pulled Bradshaw out, put Terry Hanratty in. You know, you had those issues with Bradshaw trying to get him to do what Chuck Noll wanted him to do. Mike Holmgren with Brett Favre, you had to break him of those bad habits. He still did it, but he started to work within the context of the West Coast offensive system. And sure enough, when he started to do that, that's when Green Bay started becoming successful. The same is going to happen with Mayfield. And I don't think it's going to happen with this coach. And I think it'll be a mistake, but they'll probably want to move on from Mayfield if he doesn't turn it around quickly. But
Well, see, to me, Mayfield is not the same type of guy that the Browns have trotted out there for the past 13 years. He's not your Tim Couch. He's not all those guys. Baker Mayfield is a really talented quarterback that works hard. Now, the evidence of that is not being seen on the field at this point. But
this has become a Browns show. You realize this now, huh?
Well, I'm an Oklahoma guy, and I got to defend my boy Baker.
And it's funny because, and I'm gonna bring this back to the Saints now because that's the thing with Sean Payton. Sean Payton has taken Teddy Bridgewater and shaped him into the kind of quarterback that can run this offense. Now, how successful this offense is going to be long term for him, I don't know. But what you saw him do, and you've seen the progression, is you've seen this now. Teddy Bridgewater is now becoming the kind of quarterback that Sean Payton can win with. And I'll be honest with you, I'm seeing it in Taysom Hill now, too. Yeah. He's further behind than Bridgewater. But that pass he threw to Michael Thomas last year, I don't think he throws that pass. Not like that.
Yeah.
We saw that in the preseason. And for all the talk
about the progression so much of Bridgewater, that I think that the progression of Taysom Hill is being lost in the mix.
Yeah.
But like you said, he is attempting stuff now that he never would have done as little as a year ago.
Right.
And you see some of these passes that he's throwing, they are lasers that are pinpoint.
Yes. He is throwing very accurately. And not just a deep ball that, just chucking it down the field. I mean, that was a timing route right to Thomas, hitting between the 1 and the 3. And let's just say one more thing about Michael Thomas, too. Is Michael Thomas the best receiver the Saints have ever had?
Yes.
I think so, too. I mean, with all respect to Marcus Colston, all the respect in the world for what he did over that period for his career, team in the league, and be successful.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out in one of our chat rooms earlier today that if you want a testament to how good Michael Thomas is, he's leading the league in receiving.
Yeah.
Without Drew Brees.
Right. Exactly. Granted, we're throwing to him almost exclusively, but at the same time, he is producing. He is producing. And you're right,
It's
Calvin.
one thing to throw to him all the time. It's another thing to be able to throw to him all the time and have it succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually you're a defensive coordinator. Your job number one with whoever you play this week is take away the best weapon that they have. For the Saints right now, that's absolutely Michael Thomas. And they cannot shut him down.
No. He uses his hands extremely well. I noticed that his rookie year. I'll be honest with you. When I first saw him come on the field as a rookie 2 years ago, or 3 seasons ago now, 2016, and I saw him slapping people's hands down, defensive backs' hands down, moving cornerbacks with his arms, moving them with his hands, like he's playing a slap fight with somebody. And then he's also running and jumping out of his breaks like nobody's business and snatching the ball out the air after he's just been doing hand slapping. I was like, this is amazing. This is what an elite NFL receiver does on a regular basis. And you're right. He doesn't have the speed, but he is football quick. He can get downfield. He can get some yards after the catch, but more importantly, he gets the ball no matter where it's thrown. If it comes to him, he's probably going to catch it.
Yeah.
And no matter who's throwing it to
him.
And
unlike a lot of the top peer talent in this league at wide receiver, it doesn't. Well, I'll say it this way: thus far this season, it doesn't matter who it is throwing it to him,
Yeah.
because you see these standout wide receivers with their quarterback, their franchise quarterback, and then something happens to him, and then they disappear. Well, you're not seeing that out of Michael Thomas.
No, no. And
If anything, he's upped his game since Drew went down.
exactly. And I think you're seeing that across the board for the team. I think you're seeing that about the defense. You're seeing that with the cornerbacks. You're seeing that with the wide receiver.
The offensive line, too.
Yeah.
Because we've made it a point over and over every week how the quarterback play that you get from Teddy Bridgewater is obviously different from what you're getting out of Drew Brees. And the weight of that transition is in a lot of ways transferred to the offensive line, because they have to adjust the way that they play.
Yeah.
And it's taken a couple of games, but you look at the penalty count over the past, say, 3 weeks. It's gone down drastically.
Well, you're still getting some dumb offensive penalties. You didn't get many this past week. They finally played the way they're supposed to. But, you were seeing a lot of dumb holding, false starts, just, games, just lack of focus, lack of concentration kind of penalties. You're holding because you're getting beat, kind of thing. You saw a much more focused team in the Dome, and that's going to be important to see if they carry that over to Jacksonville. All right, so we're going to play Jacksonville this Sunday. What are your concerns about us playing Jacksonville in Jacksonville?
Well, my first concern is Gardner Minshew is it's hard to gauge exactly where that guy is going to be. He's played really well, and he's made some really stupid mistakes in the couple of weeks that I've gotten to see him play.
He's a rookie.
Yeah, that was my next point. You're just going to have to take it one play at a time, and you can't let Leonard Fournette beat you, which I don't think that's an issue after seeing what the Saints defense was able to accomplish with Ezekiel Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can scheme and game plan around Fournette. But if Jacksonville falls behind early, then they're going to hit the panic switch, and Fournette is going to be a non-factor anyway. Their defense is not as stout as it was a year ago. That's not to say that they aren't good, but they're going to come at you the whole game, though.
Yeah. Well, again, I can't believe I read this somewhere, but they said, the Saints could be primed for an upset in Jacksonville because of the heat in Jacksonville. And I just kind of rolled my eyes at this, like, if you've been to New Orleans, have you been around here
lately? New Orleans in August?
Yeah. Well, we've had this Indian summer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they practice in this heat. They are a dome team, but they're not a dome team. They practice outdoors. They're well aware of this heat. I think, once again, you have to beat Jacksonville the way you beat the Cowboys, the way you've pretty much beat Tampa, to an extent Seattle. The defense has to take the run away, make Gardner Minshew beat you. Lattimore has to shut down DJ Chark, which I think he should be able to. And make Minshew beat you with other players. And I think the pass rush can beat up Jacksonville's offensive line. It's not that Jacksonville's a terrible offensive line, but I think they can get to a rookie quarterback where he starts looking at the pass rush more than looking downfield at other targets.
Yeah.
And I think if they cannot run the football, and you got to do this for 4 quarters, and that's the advantage why I was talking about the defensive line with an 8-man rotation. That will be important in a game like Jacksonville, where you're on the road you are dealing with heat and fatigue, um, and you got fresh rushers coming in after, and they can play the run and the pass.
I think that this game is going to have to be decided at the line of scrimmage on both
Mm-hmm.
sides of the ball.
Yep. And we are going to have to. Now, Jacksonville doesn't have a very good run defense. Uh, what was it? Christian McCaffrey had 200 yards or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he goes out injured. The backup comes in and gets a 50-yard touchdown run. And I think the week before they gave up a lot of yards. I don't remember who the hell they played now. I want to say, was that Tennessee? I think it may have been. Let me see. Jacksonville. I'll tell you, we do no show prep on this thing.
Let's see, there's Monday, Sunday. No.
Let's see. Oh,
you got a date?
I got to look at that. I'm looking at their whole schedule right now. They played the Broncos. That's who it was. They played the Broncos, and they beat them on a last-second field goal. But they had to come back from that one too. Yeah, they played the Titans in week 2, and they lost they beat the Titans. Never mind. The Texans they lost to by a point. The Chiefs beat them 40-26. The Falcons. Oh, that's preseason. Okay, so. But I'm thinking. I think it was the Broncos.
The
I think
Tennessee game was the unveiling of Gardner Minshew, I believe.
Yeah, because I think it was the Texans game where what's his name got hurt, where Nick Foles got hurt. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I want to say it was the Denver game where I saw the running back, get a lot of yardage on that defense. So this should be a game that you see Alvin Kamara. This should be a game where you start seeing more of Latavius Murray getting some yardage. You won't.
I think he played well this week too. By the way,
who's that?
Murray.
Murray.
You're starting to see him adjust a little bit better. You're starting to see him rip off a few sizable gains.
The one thing I was worried about with Murray is pretty much starting to happen. He's become the Tim Hightower kind of true backup running back, not a split carry kind of guy. I think you see Murray a lot more in the game. I think you're probably going to see a lot of inside outside kind of runs with he and Kamara. Trying to get that defense, wear that defense down, control the clock, control the line of scrimmage. This probably will not be a 300-yard passing day for Bridgewater. This is going to be one of those games where we see a lot of jump off passes, a lot of short passes. We have to see if Jared Cook takes the next step. He looks like he surfaced from the morgue. This past week, got his first touchdowns to Saint. I don't need to see touchdowns out of him, but I do need to see him become that option on third down I've been waiting for. So it's not so much depending on Michael Thomas. But I think this is a game I'm kind of on the fence on. This go either way. I can see them lose this game because they've won 3 tough games. This is kind of a trap game for them. But at the same time, I don't think they want to lose a game. I think this is that winning streak I was wondering about at the beginning of the season. Where's this winning streak going to be? I think we're seeing it right now. I'm hoping we see it. That we just go through, starting with the Seattle game and going all the way maybe to the 49ers or Indianapolis game where we win all these games in a row. I hope that's where this winning streak is starting. I hope that's what we're in the middle of, but we'll have to see. Calvin brings up a good point. Jacksonville does have a lot of players from Louisiana, not just LSU guys like Fournette and Chalk, but Cam Robinson up in West Monroe.
That's right.
Yeah, I think we got somebody else on there from. I want to say UL Lafayette is on that team.
Well, they take all kinds, huh?
Yeah. Well, you need somebody who knows what the hell they're doing, not somebody from tech.
Let's not get personal.
Let me see. Jackson. I'm telling you, no show prep whatsoever.
I can say this about Jacksonville's defense. Their secondary seems to be somewhat chaotic with the whole Jalen Ramsey saga going on.
Yes.
Their talent on defense is very heavy on the defensive line. So if the Saints can play this game 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, they'll do well.
I'm gonna find my UL kid that's on this team. I know because I heard his name get mentioned. LSU, Alabama. There we go.
Cam Robinson was from Alabama.
Yeah, that's who got in a fight.
Well, he's from Monroe, but
right? But
he
that's
played
the one.
at Alabama.
That's the one that he picked a fight. Fournette picked a fight with 2 weeks ago with Cam Robinson, one of the biggest guys on the team.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. All right, maybe I'm wrong. I thought I heard a UL guy on the team, but I don't see him. So I paid the extra money. I got ESPN Plus because I wanted to be nostalgic, and I'm watching NFL primetime, and it is kind of fun to see NFL primetime again. With now Tom Jackson's hurt. He had Achilles surgery, so he's out. He should be back probably next couple of weeks. But seeing Chris Berman, and Tom Jackson, hearing that music, looking at the highlights, listening to Chris Berman's nicknames for people, it was very nostalgic to the late 80s, early 90s. Fun time watching ESPN when I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, when it was still worth watching.
Well, it hadn't become so
political.
Not just political, but just so
ESPN has become more. Well, I'll put it this way: if it was print media, you'd call it clickbait.
Yeah. Well,
it's more about getting those numbers than it is getting it right.
Well,
and the journalist in me, that's like nails on a chalkboard.
It used to be that the sport kind of led ESPN, and it was all about supporting the sport. Now it's more personality focused, and every show is a talk show, kind of talking head, arguing over dumb shit with bad takes just to generate.
Well, it's all a formula. You got one, usually blonde, wearing a low cut top, showing cleavage.
Wait a minute. What's wrong with that?
Maybe two former players that are very opinionated and they have their own agenda. And then you've got some sort of, and I use this term loosely, journalist that I guess the only qualification they have for that position is to have a Twitter account. And that's what passes for a panel these days.
But it's all personality driven. That's the thing that bugs me about ESPN today. It's not the sport anymore. Used to watch NFL Countdown to get you to the games and talk about the game and the strategy of the game. And now it's about the players.
Well, that's like Monday morning. On Monday Morning Quarterback, there was a crawl across the bottom of the screen that said, has Carson Wentz regained his MVP form? Carson Wentz ain't even played a whole season in his career.
Yeah. Calvin's last name says y'all preaching. Yeah, but I mean it is. Every so often I'll go back and watch some of the via YouTube, because I'll fall down the YouTube rabbit hole. I'll start watching some of the old sports centers, and it's just amazing how it was about the sport, and yeah, they'd make jokes as they do in the sport, but it was about coverage of the game.
Yeah, and that was the entertaining part.
Right.
Now it's about entertainment,
even,
not
yeah,
being entertained.
And you think about the poor man who died of cancer, Stuart Scott. Stuart Scott was probably the first of the new generation of anchors. You go past the old days where you had Chris Berman, uh, um, Tom Mees, Bob Lee. I'm trying to remember all the names. The Big Show with Oberman and um, oh hell, Dan Patrick and Oberman. You know, Back then you had that generation of those kind of reporters. Then Stuart Scott was the first one to really start with his own take on the news, on the sports. And he sort of started to become kind of a personality a bit on the show where it was, and some of the other ones started. Kenny Mayne came in, and then you had the guy who's now the veteran over there of NFL Network. Um, oh, now he's bald. I can't believe I'm forgetting all these people's names. Um, but you know who I'm talking about. Just remembering some of these people who used to be on ESPN. But Stuart Scott was the first one. This guy is cool as the other side of the pillow. Or when he's doing basketball, they call him the bus driver because he took him to school. That kind of thing. That was the new. That kind of happened in the late '80s, early '90s. That became the new ESPN, and that was really when it was at its peak. And what's happened now, because Stuart Scott was new and fresh, what happened was you had other people trying to imitate Stuart Scott or take it one step further, and it's almost like you're doing a bad Stuart Scott. You're kind of now you're just being obnoxious, you know. And Stuart Scott, it was who he was. It wasn't fake. It wasn't an act, and that's what you're kind of seeing. And then from that point on, it became all personalities. So that's why I'm enjoying watching ESPN primetime again. NFL primetime is because it reminds me of the late '80s, early '90s ESPN. So it's fun.
All right. Well, it's time to make the donuts. Bro.
Yes, it is. Hey, you gotta pay the bills first. We just jumped right into it.
Yeah, well, it happens that way sometimes. We thank everyone for joining us on Under the Dome this week. And despite what people may think from outside appearances, every one of our shows is not named All My Exes Live in Texas.
I cannot get rid of that damn name. I try. It's something when I set this initial thing up, it's locked in and I cannot get rid of it. I'm trying.
We'll have to figure that out.
Right.
But we invite you to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook at Under the Dome Podcast. And let me see, what else am I forgetting? I guess that's it.
Real quick.
We love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do, because without you, there is no us. And we will see you again 1 week from tonight, discussing the 70s porn star Gardner Minshew and how he fared against our stout defense. And
real quick, what's your prediction for Sunday?
Pain.
I knew this was coming. I knew it. Prediction?
Pain.
Yeah.
I think that the Saints should be able to win this game. I really do. Ever since Jalen Ramsey's circus of drama has began, that team has not looked the same. They had an opportunity to beat a wounded Carolina team this past week, and they couldn't close the deal. I don't think that it will be a blowout like what we saw for the vast majority of the Tampa Bay game. I say the Saints by 8 or 10 points, maybe.
Okay. All right. I'm not quite as confident. I think I'm every week I've been predicting the Saints are going to lose or expecting the Saints to lose. So I'm happy when
Then
they
keep
win.
doing it.
Yeah, that's right. So once again, I'm gonna think that the Saints probably lose, but if they do win this game, it's gonna be a close one. Gonna be a nail biter. People will be stressed out. My wife will be posting gifs of from airplane of Hedges, Robert Hedges, wiping the sweat off his brow as the water's running down, or all the gifs of the stress. But I think if they win the game, it's gonna be a Will Lutz field goal late. But I do think that I hope the Saints win, but I'm prepared for them to lose. So,
Well, I'm not going to be just completely blown away, floored if they do lose it. Like you said, it almost seems like the perfect trap game for this team at this point. And it is a road game,
Chad
so
Buffet, Saints by 19. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that would be good too.
That my
Um,
wife enjoys those kind of games.
yeah, I do too. I enjoy them a lot more than those where I need oxygen and an IV.
My wife hates those games. She leaves the house. In fact, she's going to Denver this weekend. I didn't tell you this. I'll tell you this real quick because I know you got to go. But she's flying to Denver this weekend, so I'll be a bachelor this weekend. Um,
Party at Allen.
yeah, yeah, the dog will love us. Yeah, but it's supposed to snow Thursday in Denver, and she's leaving on Friday to go up there. And I don't think it's supposed to get out of there freezing the whole time she's there. And she has New Orleans coats. And what I mean by New Orleans coats, thin coats that are designed to handle 40-degree weather, not 28-degree weather. So this should be interesting. This really should
Yeah,
be. Yeah. Um, Calvin. If they lose, they will lose 13-10. If they win, it's 36-13. I think Alvin Kamara has a big game, though. I really do. I think this is the game where he rushes for over 100 yards and
I think he's going to have to.
probably has 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think this will be that game. Um, but I'm not. I just don't. I don't want to break the streak. Predict them to lose so they'll win, and I'm happy. And I can write fun, good, bad, and uglies. So thank you
Good.
guys for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.